Welcome to Daily Armor. Today we're in Psalms 25, looking at verse number 6 and 7. Verse 6 and 7, and they say, Remember, O Lord, thy tender mercies and thy loving kindnesses, for they have been ever of old. Remember not the sins of my youth, nor my transgressions. According to the mercy, remember thou me, for thy goodness' sake, O Lord. Now, previous devotion, we were in Psalms 25, verses 4 and 5, and the very last thing in verse number 5 says, On thee do I wait all the day. On thee do I wait all the day. While he's waiting, David wrote this psalm. We know that David has experienced great tragedy, great victories, great defeats. I mean, he has experienced all kinds of things. And he's waiting on the Lord. And while he's waiting, he's saying, Lord, remember. The Lord doesn't forget. Sometimes we need to remind ourselves. I need to remind myself about some facts a lot. David is probably remembering God's tender mercies and how he was so merciful to him and how he was so, the loving kindnesses. That's plural. It's not just loving kindness, but it's loving kindnesses, plural. So he's experienced God's favor, good deeds, that the Lord's just been so gracious. His kindness, his mercy, he has experienced that not just once, but time after time after time. His tender mercies, dealing with him tenderly, mercifully. What does that mean? Mercies, compassion. So tenderly compassionate, not because David deserved it, but because David didn't deserve it. And yet he experienced that in spite of whatever the circumstances were. David is saying, remember, Lord, remember those times. Remember that your tender mercies are so, great. Remember all those loving kindnesses that you shown upon me. And it says, for they have been ever of old. In other words, there's this pattern that he's experienced. There's this, these experiences have led him to say, you know what, Lord, you shouldn't have been compassionate on me over here, and yet you were. Your mercies were very tender. Lord, I didn't deserve this, and I even had a bad attitude that day, and still you showed me favor, and you did this, showed me this kindness, and Lord, because I'm remembering those things. I don't want you to forget those things, and Lord's not going to forget, but sometimes we need to remind ourselves. What is David waiting on? Remember, on thee do I wait all the day. He's like, I know, Lord, you're consistent. You're faithful. And I know what you've done in my past. I know I know what you have, what you have allowed to happen in my life in the past. And Lord, I have an expectation. I'm waiting, and I'm eagerly waiting, and I'm earnestly waiting. And he's not given the Lord a command here. It's not this, I demand this. It's not this, claim it kind of a thing. And it's not even this time frame. It's not saying, Lord, I know you're going to come through for me today. Or Lord, I know you're going to come through me by the end of the week. Lord, you're going to come through. It's not giving the Lord any kind of time restraints. It's just knowing that when the timing was right, and because of my past experiences, there's some things I had to wait on. I had to wait on two different things that I can just think of right off the top of my head. I waited for about 12 years apiece on those things. And it was a long way. And I was crying out unto the Lord. I was seeking him. I was waiting on him. I was waiting on him and waiting on him. And then when he came through, it was if I never had to wait at all. I mean, it was just this load that was lifted that was so amazing. And I know that he was showing me some things in those periods of waiting, in those seasons of waiting, that now, as I'm waiting on other things, as I'm waiting in about different situations, I'm seeking the Lord, and I'm remembering, and I'm telling him, Lord, don't you remember that day? And Lord, I've never got over that day. And Lord, I'm never going to get over this over here, Lord, that you showed me. And Lord, I'm relying on that. I'm waiting all the day. I don't care how many days it is, because Lord, your timing is always right. my timing is always now. That's just how we're, we have this expectation. And then in our world system, we expect everything to be, if it's waiting a minute for something to heat up in the microwave seems like forever. Waiting for just a few minutes, if you take your order at the drive-thru and it's not ready at the end, by the time you get there, you're mad. What are y'all doing in there? I mean, it's ridiculous. This expectation that we should have things instantly, that we should get, demand all this, disrespectfully. That's not the way David's coming to the Lord. He's saying, Lord, I'm waiting and I'm anticipating, I'm excited, but I'm also, what I'm banking on, what I'm counting on is your tender mercies, your loving kindness, because they've been, so often in the past. I have an expectation of them in the future. And then also, David is, remembering some stupid things, and he wants the Lord not to remember those stupid things. And when we've been washed by the blood, the sins have been removed. And then when after you're saved, I've been saved for almost 24 years. And since I've been saved, I have messed up so many times. And I seek the Lord for forgiveness. And when he forgives me, and he doesn't bring it back up. I know we have a tendency to bring things back up. I'll bring things back up to myself. David is probably trying to forget some stupid things he's done. And some, I can't, things that he says, I cannot believe that I did that. I cannot believe that I thought that I was okay. I can't believe I had such a disrespectful attitude. Or I can't believe that, whatever the situation whatever was coming back to his mind. And he's saying, Lord, I don't want to remember those things. And Lord, I don't want you to remember those things either. But the only way for that to happen is we have to ask for forgiveness. We have to ask for forgiveness. And then when we've been forgiven and we realize that when God sees me, he sees me through the blood, and that blood is perfect, holy, the spotless lamb, that he sees me through Jesus. And when he's looking on me and I'm just remembering all these things that I've already asked for forgiveness for, that I've not forgave myself. And he's like, if I can forgive you, you have to forgive yourself, because when I see you, I see Jesus. His righteousness has been imputed onto me, not mine. Mine is ugly. Mine is stained. Mine is disgusting. But when he sees me, he sees the righteousness of Jesus Christ that has been put to my account. And therefore, I have to quit treating myself as if I'm still wearing some kind of scarlet letter, some kind of sign, don't like me, don't love me, don't, I'm going to mess up, I'm going to fall, I'm going to fail, all these things, which is so true. But what I'm trying to say is that I have to not remember those things. I have to know I've been forgiven, ask for forgiveness. That's the first thing, ask for forgiveness. But then know that whatever mess up that you or I have done, that when we've been forgiven, the Lord doesn't remember them. He's not holding them up against us. That's the enemy. The enemy likes to do that. If we're acting like an enemy in somebody's life, we're bringing up what they've done. Now, there's a lot of people that are like, don't bring up my past. Well, if your present isn't any different than your past, that's kind of, a dead giveaway. That's why it's hard to forgive somebody. If somebody, if in a marriage that a husband cheats and he's like, well, I asked for forgiveness and you're supposed to forgive me and you're not supposed to bring it up, but he's still cheating, that's kind of a difficult thing. And we have to remember that if we truly want forgiveness from God, that true forgiveness is, Lord, what I did was so wrong and so disgusting, and I don't ever want to fall trapped to that again. I don't ever want to do that again. And you have this turning, not, Lord, I'm sorry I got caught. Lord, I'm going to ask for forgiveness and then everything's going to be okay. Lord, he knows the attitude behind us asking. He knows the attitude. He knows the intentions. If your intentions are to continue and just ask for forgiveness every time, you're not ever going to get anywhere. And the Lord is going to make you accountable. But for those things that we've done, that we've truly repented, that's the difference between asking for forgiveness and repenting. Repenting is that turning away, that I'm no longer going in that direction. Lord, I got off track over here. I was running a squirrel over here. I was running a rabbit over there, and that flower looked pretty, Lord, and that was interesting over there, Lord, and getting, and but Lord, none of that's worth it. None of that's worth it, Lord. I got to keep my eyes on you. I got to keep my eyes on you. That repenting and turning away from whatever the distractions are, whatever the sin was, whatever it was, and then continuing, get back on track, lining up with Jesus. Remember not the sins of my youth, those offenses, those bad habits, that guilt that you carry, that guilt that I carried for so long. And when that night that I got saved, he lifted that. Nor my transgressions, that transgression, to transgress against someone, to transgress against God, to transgress against the law. That is you rebelling. That crime, I do what I want to. I'm old enough now, I can do what I want to. That is rebellion. That's transgression. That's transgression against God himself. And those are things that we need to ask for forgiveness for. And then once we have, remember not, Lord. He's not going to remember them, but we have to put it behind us and let it be lessons learned. Not that we don't want to forget the lessons in it, but we want to be compassionate on others and say, oh, you don't have to live that way. You don't have to be that way. You don't have to, go down those paths. You're so much more fulfillment and so much more peace and in following Jesus Christ. According to thy mercy, so there's that mercies again, those T's, remembering those tender mercies again. That mercy, that's God's faithfulness, his goodness, his amazingness. I mean, he's just amazing. Remember thou me for thy goodness sake. Remember thou me, O Lord. Lord, he's not going to forget me. He's not going to forget you. He didn't forget David. David's waiting on him. He's anticipating. He's excited. He may be in a mess right this very minute. He may be absolutely in a mess. But what's keeping him going is remembering God's tender mercies and his loving kindness, and that he's faithful, and that he's good, and that he's got a plan for thy goodness sake. That's talking about for the sake of God, not for the sake of me, but for the sake of Jesus, for the sake of God, for the sake of the Lord, for the sake that he has got a plan. He's got a purpose. There's a reason behind it. There was a reason behind the different situations that I had to wait on. I just thought of another situation. That was a very long wait. I don't know how many years that was, but that was a very, very long wait. But the timing was so right. The timing was just so right. And that's what I count on, and that's what you have to count on is while we're waiting and we're anticipating God's going to come through, he's going to help. He's going to intervene because his mercies have been proven in times past, and they're not going to stop. Why? Not because I'm faithful, but because he's faithful. And so that's what we have to remember. We have to, keep moving forward, keep praising the Lord, keep going to the Lord, keep expecting the Lord, but in his time and in his way. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again soon.